I've had some useful feedback on these videos from someone who's never watched them, but I'm sure he watches a lot of YouTube. Tells me I need to work on my intros. So all the people who just watch videos because they like a nice intro, 3, 2, 1, they've gone. Okay, it's just us. We're doing Spanish grammar. We're looking at tú and usted. Although perhaps we ought to say we're looking at tú. It doesn't even fit in the box. Look, tú, vosotros, usted, ustedes, vos, and vuestra merced. All the different ways you can say you in different versions of Spanish. Let's start with the basics of where you're going to meet it. In your GCSE speaking exam, you might have an informal situation. It'll say the teacher is, or the examiner is playing the role of your friend, and you should use tú. If it's a formal situation, it will say your teacher is the shop assistant, your teacher is the train guard, your teacher is someone you've never met before. Please use usted. So we're looking at formal and informal situations. If you've got it, you'll be fine. If you haven't got it, don't let it throw you. Get on and do the role play. You may not even use the word you, because a lot of the time in the role play you're talking about I, or I want, or is there, or can I have, and you shouldn't let a little thing like that throw you. So we know from going o, as, a, amos, ais, an, that tú is the second person. Can't be the first person, that's I. Can't be the third person, that's he, she, it. Or in the plural, ais. If it's an ER verb, o, as, a has changed to o, es, e, emos, eis, en. There you are, second person. IR verb, o, es, e, imos, is, en. Tú, vosotros is the second person. It means you. One's singular, one's plural. You won't often hear tú because the ending does it for you. Vives, you live. Vivis, you live, plural. You won't hear the vosotros either. Okay, usted means you. Which person endings are we going to use? You can't use o, that means I. You can't use amos, that means we. You can't use as and ais, although it means you. That's already taken. That's the one for tú and vosotros. So actually we're going to use the third person, not to mean he, she, or it, but to mean you, when we're being polite or when we're being formal. Do we have this in English? Sort of. When you talk to the Queen, you don't say to the Queen, you are very amazing. Even if that's being quite nice, it's not polite. Your Majesty is. Okay, what's the example? Oh, Your Majesty has eaten my sandwich. You don't go, you've eaten my sandwich. Your Majesty has eaten my sandwich. Your Majesty is a third person thing. If you're talking to a bishop, Your Grace is looking in the wrong place. If you're talking to an ambassador, Your Excellency needs a good wash. Who writes this stuff? There you are, third person endings. Has, is. You don't say you have. Your Majesty has. Your Grace is. Your Excellency needs. So we do have this in English. We just don't talk to the Queen or bishops or ambassadors as often as we might. Usted is not a word. It's an abbreviation of vuestra merced. And vuestra merced means your mercy. You know the word merced. You know Mercedes, Mercedes. Vuestra merced ha comido mi bocadillo. Your mercy is looking in the wrong place. Your mercy needs good wash. There it is in Spanish. Ha comido mi bocadillo. Busca en el lugar equivocado. Necesita lavarse bien. Third person. O as a. O as a. O as a. Third person. It's an abbreviation of vuestra merced. Works just like Your Majesty would in English. And it's not just for talking to the Queen. You can use it in formal situations. There you are. The third person for usted. You've seen it before. You saw it in year 7, 8, 9 when you did cafes. The waiter, when they handed you your food, they didn't say aquí tienes, they said aquí tiene. Why didn't you put your hand up and say to the teacher, why isn't it aquí tienes? When you were being the waiter, que desea. Why didn't you say to the teacher, surely second person, o as a. The second one is as que deseas. Also, this is interesting. Instead of tú, nombre. It's got to be su nombre. ¿Cuál es su nombre? ¿Cómo se llama? Usted es la culpable. That's a song. Don't start me singing. Actual use in Spain, I hardly ever use tú anymore. It's not. They used to say there are people you call tú, and then there are people that you don't really know you call usted. It's more to do with the situation. People I meet in Spain, I just use tú mostly. If it's a very posh hotel, we might use usted. If you're with somebody that you know quite well, and you would normally call tú, but the situation is very formal. For example, they're giving a public lecture in a university, and at the end you put your hand up to ask an intelligent question, you might use usted to talk to someone you normally call tú, just because you don't want everyone to think that you're just asking the question because they're your mate, because it's a formal situation. In Latin America, used a lot more. Your friend's parents, you would probably call usted because they're from older generation. In Spain, not so much. In Latin America, don't use vosotros. Use ustedes for plural. Vosotros just isn't used, and ustedes then is used for formal and informal. Some Latin American countries, they use vos instead of tú, and it has its own verb forms that go with it. And it's, at A level, it's mentioned in the spec, so they might put it in a listening or a reading, but you won't be expected to use it. Otherwise I'm going to have to find out how it works. So back to GCSE. In your exam, if you are thinking of saying do you have, or have you done something, do you want to, can you, do you like, would you like, those would have to change. This is what I said earlier about in the exam, most of the things you say don't change, but if you do something with you in it, then you'll have to just change it to the third person. So questions that you ask is the main area that this could happen. That looks the same to me. Ah, there we go. So instead of tienes or tiene, do you have in the formal one? Have you, quiere, puede, le gusta, le gustaría. They're the kind of things that it might ask you to ask the examiner in a formal situation. It's this one, with the third person ending.